These ships show port calls at Ukraine's Black Sea ports in the days before Russia invaded the country. Here's how that compares to the days after the fighting broke out, 6 months after the war started under the Black Sea Grain Initiative, and then again this summer after the Black Sea grain deal fell apart. They show how Moscow's economic war against Ukraine is playing out in the Black Sea, causing key Ukrainian exports to plunge, something Russia has benefited from as its exports are reaching record highs. So how has Russia sought to control shipping to and from Ukraine, and what are Kyiv and its allies trying to do to counter that blockade? Before the war, Ukraine's Black Sea ports exported 95% of the country's wheat, corn, and sunflower oil. Ukraine's agricultural products account for 41% of the country's total exports, meaning they are major drivers of Ukraine's economy. Wanting to choke Ukraine off financially, Russia has taken aim at these ports since the invasion began. It's done this in a number of different ways. It's tried to capture some strategic port cities, and it's bombarded others with missiles. It's also destroyed infrastructure used to export grain and moved warships into shipping corridors. Now, there has been a caveat. Last July in Turkey, Moscow, under diplomatic pressure, agreed to a UN-brokered deal known as the Black Sea Grain Initiative. That paved the way for Ukrainian food products, and only food products, to flow from these 3 ports. You can see that port calls picked up, but they never fully recovered to those pre-war levels. And Russia was accused of slowing down shipping by holding up inspections. Then this summer, shipping came to a standstill once again after Russia withdrew from that Black Sea grain deal and threatened all commercial ships heading toward Ukraine.
Stop machine! Stop machine!
So how are Kyiv and its allies racing to keep Ukraine's economy and its critical food products plugged into the rest of the world? Early in the war, the European Union established these solidarity lanes to move products in and out of the country via road, rail, and inland waterways. Over much of the past year, those overland routes handled about 24% of Ukraine's grain exports, while the Black Sea ports handled 50%. Ports over here on the Danube River handled the remaining 26%. Now, following the collapse of that grain deal, the U.S. is leading an effort to increase capacity here, where grain is shipped down the Danube River and through Romania's ports on the Black Sea. Even though this route is slower and more expensive than using Ukraine's Black Sea ports, it's considered to be safer since it lies under the NATO umbrella. Ships would travel through the waters of Romania, Bulgaria, and Turkey. Those countries are part of NATO, whose 31 members consider an attack on one to be an attack on all. Now, the UN and Turkey are still trying to get Russia back into that grain deal, but that might not happen, so Ukraine is also working to open a shipping corridor in the Black Sea. That would allow ships to hug Ukraine's coast before sailing by those NATO countries. That could help Ukrainian farmers earn more money, but Ukraine's ability to resume exports this way depends on whether ships can get insurance and whether captains are willing to take the risk, because Russia isn't guaranteeing them safe passage. The true test for Ukraine and its allies will come in September and October, when the country's massive harvests are brought in. But some Ukrainian farmers have already given up on planting their crops since the market and supply chain are broken, and there are no signs of the war ending anytime soon. Now, as Russia threatens these new routes, the U.S. says it's considering all possible options, including military solutions, to protect the ships heading to these ports. And analysts say the threat of a broader war spilling into the Black Sea is higher than at any point since the conflict began.